The doctor.
Doctor of public health.
All right now.
We're very proud of her. I mean, she's been funding minority initiative grants for about the last 5 years. And those grants have been granted to communities all over the state of Arkansas. And they are dedicated to preventing people from smoking and also helping people stop smoking. And we call that smoking cessation. But without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Evans.
Good afternoon again. I am Marian Evans. I'm your facilitator for this afternoon session. And to start, I would like to have each of the panelists provide a brief introduction. Just tell us your name and what you do as it relates to HIV, AIDS, and or tobacco prevention awareness.
My name is Deborah Patton, and I'm an advocate of HIV.
And hello there, I'm Karen Swinton, and I work with Planned Parenthood, and I'm an HIV educator as well as a sexual health educator with teens.
My name is Kevin Holmes. I'm the program manager for Arkansas Black Pride. I also work for MAC Cosmetics, where I serve as their global ambassador for their HIV and AIDS platform.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Templeton, and I'm a student at Henderson State University, graduating in about 2 weeks. So I'm really excited about that. But I was just asked to be on the panel just to give my views on how HIV/AIDS affects the youth. So, thank you.
My name is Genine Perez. I work with the Arkansas Youth Leadership Initiative under the Family Service Agency and the Y.E.S team, and I'm program coordinator for the tobacco prevention program there.
So I'd like to change it up a bit and give the audience a chance to ask questions based on their introductions. Are there any questions that are just burning from the audience at this present time? Okay, well, I will start. You have something you want to say? Okay. And I'm going to open this, and I would like for each of the panelists to comment. Popular culture is defined as activities or commercial products reflecting, suited to, or aimed at the taste of the general masses of people, particularly our youth. What role should the media take in influencing the popular culture as it relates to HIV/AIDS and or tobacco prevention and awareness?
I guess I'll jump right on in. When you were mentioning media, the first thing that came to thought was BET. And as African Americans, we all are very familiar with BET. And I actually wanted to commend them. They have a recent HIV/AIDS, I guess, platform going on. You're nodding your head, so I think you know what I'm talking about, where they are encouraging testing. And they're encouraging that it's okay to be open with your partner to discuss testing. I think some of the dialogue was, oh, I really like him, and then like you have this other party that's coming in, like your mind saying, well, no, you don't want to mess up this relationship. No, you don't want him to think you have anything, or no, you don't want to scare him off. But that's what we deal with, and those are the things that we think about. So the fact that they're actually taking a step and saying that it's okay to be open with your partner, I think that's great. So.
First of all, I, of course, grew up in the South. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I think our kids are exposed to a lot more than what we were when we were kids. I'm 28, and I mean, my mom didn't let me watch a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because it influences kids. You are not your child's only influence. You know, so when you allow them to be exposed to certain things happen. So I think if we take hold of our youth at that age where they're learning and they're absorbing, you know what I'm saying, all the things and finding themselves and worrying about, should I go out with this person? Should I do this? Should I smoke because my friends smoke? I just think it starts at home. And then, you know, allowing your kids to watch everything can be very detrimental. So.
I think being probably the oldest person on the panel, or maybe one of the oldest people on the panel, I work with teens. And I just think that to piggyback on what Kevin said, you know, we as parents, we really, really, really need to monitor our kids, and I don't think it's the media's responsibility to raise them. It's a lot of junk out there for our kids, and they're being exposed to all these things that are telling them that it's good, but they're not really being exposed to consequences. So we as parents and as a community, we have to start taking back, you know, the responsibility and raising our kids and letting them know what their morals, what our morals and values are, because it starts at home. Yes.
Piggyback on what she's saying, I believe that it starts at home also. But first of all, I believe that we need to give our kids a way out, not to keep them in a box to say that abstinence is the only thing, it is the only prevention. Because some of us, it's just not going abstinence. I mean, and that's just obvious in today's time. So I taught mine to use condoms if it was something that you just thought that you had to do. You know, and if you can't get them, I'll get them for you. And I taught that in my home simply because I was HIV positive myself. So I taught prevention in my household. Everyone that walked through my door, I would ask them, are you sexually active? And we would have a conversation. You know, and this year was such of a regular basis until the kids got kind of angry at me, but it was okay that they became angry because I questioned everybody that came through the door, even you too. You know, but this would put something on their mind. You know, and we have to let the kids know that it's okay to disclose to a family what's going on with you. Some kids are afraid to come and talk to their parents about what's happening. You have to keep an open mind dealing with kids today because everything is wide open. You know, and there's no closing of the door right now. You know, we can obviously see that.
Yeah. So, I think the question was, what role does the media play?
Should the media take an influence?
Should the
What role should the media take an influence in the popular culture as it relates to HIV/AIDS and/or tobacco prevention?
Well, right now I believe she mentioned BET. I'm not necessarily a fan of BET, and I'm not necessarily a fan of BET because of the way they glamorize tobacco use or drug use, or I know they have those other shows, but those are not the shows that our children are watching. Even when we are trying to be advocates and work in prevention and make sure that they're doing X, Y, and Z and that they're not involved in all of these other things. I can't be with my children 24 hours a day. I don't know what they're exposed to at school, although I can be a very active component in that. But whether it's media, social networking, or any of those things or that our children are exposed to on a daily basis, there has to be a point where society as a whole realizes the consequences of what's going on. But because the mighty dollar is at stake, the mighty dollar, it's all about the dollar bill. So that's what's going to be on TV. That's what they're going to be exposed to, because whoever can pay the highest. I'm in tobacco prevention, and I know good and well I'm worth way more than what I am paid because of all the things that I do. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I know big tobacco could never pay. I mean, we're not able to match them dollar for dollar. But we need to be. There needs to be me and 15 more or 20 more or 100 more people just like me working in tobacco prevention, just so that we can attack tobacco. So now you add sex with that and AIDS awareness, HIV, and all those other components. Oh my gosh. Yep, it starts at home. Yep, I'm taking it personal. I do whatever I can for my children, but media needs to not rely so much on that dollar bill and what comes in. If they care for our society and the generations that are coming up now and what's going to be in the future. I hope y'all understood what I said, but it's a personal thing. Dollar bills are not personal. Does that make sense? Dollar bills are not personal. So they're going to glamorize whatever they're getting paid for. Period.
Did I see a question from the audience? No. This question is for Kevin Holmes. Research indicates that there are many factors that influence tobacco use among the LGBT community, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. These include social stresses, frequent patronage of bars and clubs, higher rates of alcohol and drug use, and direct targeting of LGBT consumers by the tobacco industry. Do you agree that these factors influence tobacco use, and how would you approach the LGBT young adult population to form anti-smoking advocacy groups? I
absolutely think that it does infect them or affect them in any kind of way, because I see it all the time. You know, I see that my friends, okay, well, shoot, this cigarette gonna make me feel good about being gay. I'm just gonna calm down because I just got into it with my mom, or I just got into it with, you know what I'm saying? And the media plays on that. You know, we can go around it, we can, you know, sugarcoat it, but the bottom line is the media targets certain populations. And they target the LGBT population because they're weak. We are a minority in this society. So who do you target? What does a lion target? The weakest person or the weakest animal in the kingdom that they can get? You know what I'm saying? I have a friend who my best friend that I've been preaching to for 6 or 7 years, just found out he was HIV positive. And I mean, a lot of the alcohol and the drugs has a lot to do with that, because I mean, I can call him on a Tuesday night and he's drunk out of his mind. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, I mean, come on. If you want to drink, we can come over and have a glass of wine, play some board games or something. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to be by yourself, because we already know that, you know what I'm saying, alcohol and drugs, I mean, influence your decisions. I think we just need to find better ways of getting to the youth. I think we need more scare tactics, because they think they're unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? It can't happen to me because, shoot, I'm healthy. I got this good body going. You know what I'm saying? My metabolism is up. I'm great. You know, and they think that they're untouchable.
How many more scare tactics is going to take?
Yeah, I don't
You
think
know, if you're not practicing safe sex and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, I don't care how much you drink a drug. If you're not going to be responsible for yourself, I mean, you know, you're going to die. That's the most important scare tactic you need, right?
But we also need LGBT also need the support of their families, their, you know what I'm saying, their siblings, and they have stigmas on them because they don't know anything about HIV. When I was younger in my family, oh, did you hear about that sissy down the street? Did you hear about that punk down the street? You know what I'm saying? He got AIDS. You know what I'm saying? So all I heard was negative stuff going on. And if we however we want to put it, we have to hold the church accountable. Over 88% of all black people have some religious background, yet we account for over half of the new HIV cases. What is going on? If you go to gay pride, half of these churches is missing their tenor section. Just, you know what I'm saying? That's just real. That's just keeping it real.
It's true.
But they're in these churches and the preacher is saying, right, the preachers are saying, oh, you're going to hell, you're going to stink, you're going to die and all this stuff, and you better change your evil ways. And that takes a little bit of their self-esteem away every time. That takes a little bit away of their confidence every single time. But I feel obligated to go to this church because my family's gone here for years. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to go nowhere because my family goes here. So I think that there are other ways we can go about it. I think we need a different approach as far as the faith-based organization goes, because, I mean, we go to church. You know what I'm saying? Youth are in church all the time. And why? The half of the church is empty. They drop the kids off and don't even support them on Youth Day. You know what I'm saying?
I'm King Solomon.
So, I mean, there are other ways that we can go about it, but to answer your question in short, yeah.
Karen, would you explain the LGBT groups and the effects that they have in the public schools? Do they talk about HIV/AIDS?
Let me see how I answer that. Based on my experience, and I've been in the school system since 2004, 2005, teaching evidence-based intervention, and it basically deals with pregnancy prevention. We do pregnancy prevention, STI prevention, HIV prevention. In the school system, you know, I see young women who will come up to me and say that, you know, they'll say that, you know, I like girls. And I'm like, okay. Because what I basically tell my students is this: I don't care the who, all I'm really concerned is the what. It doesn't matter who you're doing it with, it's based on your behavior. And so when I present it like that, I take the stigma off of the young ladies who may be lesbian. When the young men talk to me and they say that they are gay, or not a lot of them come out and say gay. Well, they may say they're bisexual, or they're confused. So it's not really addressed in the schools district or in the school system, because I think, you know, we as, I guess, educators, or not sexual educators, but, you know, teachers and things like that, they have a lot to focus on other than the sexual health of their students. You know, they're trying to make sure that these ACTAP scores are up and the benchmarks are up. So they're not really focusing on that. But as a sexual health educator, you know, I see these students and I know it's not really being addressed. And, you know, like Genine was saying, you know, big dollars are out there. You know, we got media, rap, music, movies, and our young people are listening to all of this music and they're watching these movies that, you know, we as parents don't really know that they're really into. And, you know, all of this is telling them that sex is good, it's okay, you know, and we as parents are really not talking to them and telling them, you know, what we think. So, you know, as someone on the panel said, we're not our kids' only influence, and we're not. You know, our kids are away from us when they're at school. You know, when my little my 7-year-old, my 9-year-old is coming home singing songs that I know they didn't hear from me, I realize that I'm not my kids' only influence. And so we, you know, as parents, we have to really take back those responsibilities. And I know I keep saying that, but that's where it starts. But, you know, as far as the school system, you know, they're really not addressing the issue. I go in, and I have an assistant with me, Ashley Young. We can only go into like so many schools in the district. There are some school districts that would tell us that, look, we don't have that kind of problem over here. And we know that realistically, you know, Arkansas is the 7th state with the highest rate of teen pregnancy, you know, and 1 out of 2 African American girls have an STD. So we don't have that problem where? Excuse me? So the thing about it is schools are not addressing it, and maybe it's not their responsibility, it's the responsibility as us parents and sexual educators and the state to put more money into these programs, because I'm telling you, you know, in 10 or 15 years, we're gonna have like an outbreak of HIV, an outbreak of hepatitis, because one thing that that has not been addressed here, and I know that this maybe, it's on the subject, but one thing that I just really think is really important to say, we talk about the transmission of HIV, and we know that it's unprotected sex. Everybody knows that, and I know people talk about sharing needles, drugs, but has anybody addressed the issue of tattoos and body piercing that's being done at people's homes? That is some dangerous stuff. And our young people, because you have to be a certain age to get a tattoo, you know, at a reputable licensed tattoo place, they're going to John John's house down the street to get tatted up because it's $5. And John John is sharing needles. You know, so we have to address those kind of issues, and we, you know, we just have to educate ourselves and make sure we try to empower our kids, and just, you know, and if our kids are, you know, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, you know what, we gotta love them regardless, and we have to educate them. We have to educate them.
What do you do when you hit a roadblock in the school districts?
Well, you know what, because, and boy, have we hit many roadblocks, because there are some, and not only do I go into the schools, but I also go into churches that will allow me to come in and talk. And when I tell them that we're talking about comprehensive sex, as opposed to abstinence only, because, you know, abstinence is great. You know, if you're not having sex and you don't have to worry about anything, but let's deal with reality. Let's just deal with reality. Let's get real and deal with the fact that our young people are having sex. They're having sex at the age of 12. Yes, they are. Having sex at the age of 13. And to us, we're like, 12? How they know sex is not rocket science? You got a penis and you got a hole, and they will stick it wherever. Wherever they, I mean, and that is the truth. And then I think as parents, we also have to understand, or just as educators and community leaders, that not only is it just, because we think about vaginal sex, but I'm talking about little oral sex, you know, where they're going to the mouth. And so, you know, we have to educate. Roadblocks, boy, we hit them because they're like, well, we ain't got that problem. But they do, but they don't want to. You know what? If they can deny me and say we don't have that problem, but they find kids having sex in the gym and, you know, in the bathrooms and stuff like that, they're not going to tell that. You know what I mean? They try to talk to, you know, the students and suspend them and all of that, but that's just putting a Band-Aid over the problem. We got to go in and educate our kids. I mean, that's the big thing. When we hit a roadblock, we can't do anything, because if they don't want us to come in, we can't go. You know, the thing about it is, if you come to my house and I don't want you there, I'm closing the door, and that's what we hit. And but what we keep doing is just keep on. We got to keep on forging, forging ahead, because you know what? I'm not going to stop, because for me, I know you can hear my passion. It's a ministry to me.
That's right.
If Planned Parenthood stops
they can't
paying me
pay
today,
you.
I'm going to still do what I do.
Right.
So that's just how it is.
Amen.
We have a follow-up question in the audience.
Well, I wanted to make a statement, and I appreciate you, Ms. Swinton, because I would want to piggyback off what you said, saying that us, the parents, we need to be educated too. Because I went to a class that Ms. Swinton taught, and I'm raising my 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old son. And I'm thinking it's great. And I had this class that she gave, and man, I needed that class. Because my son, he's abstinent, we talk about everything, but I know that there's more I need to do. And it's almost as if I'm not being educated, then I'm thinking I'm doing just fine. But if somebody educates me, then I can educate my child. Because I don't think there's a book that falls from the sky on parenting.
Okay.
That's right. It does not do that. And I thank goodness, thank God for the class I went to, was not only did it made me go on and move, do more and get my own literature on parenting my child, because the stuff that she talked about, not only the rap, but all the stuff about the oral stuff, and all the kids talk to you about this and that. And I know my son thinks he's cool, so I know he might be he's probably right in the middle of all those conversations, because he thinks he's cool. And it's cool to be having those conversations. But I believe I'm blessed because I have a son that talks to me. We talk about everything. He has a girl he's dating, and then he asked me one question. I was like, thank God. He said, my girl came and asked me, is our relationship any different than anyone else because we are not having sex? Now, I don't know if that was just some game. I don't know if that was just some game.
I can't imagine that it would be just game if he came and even said that. I think that was sincere.
His
Yeah.
girl is the sweetest.
Yeah, I think that was sincere.
Sweetest young lady. I agree with that. Sweet young lady. They do homework together. It's weird. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why did I have a girlfriend when I was like that? But just saying all that to say, educate. We need education. I know I did. I still do.
Genine Perez.
Oh gosh, yes ma'am.
Although lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender smokers believe smoking increases their risk of diseases such as lung cancer and heart disease, few have made quit attempts. What intervention would you use to approach the LGBT youth smokers to start a dialogue about quitting? Please give an example.
Wow. Who gave me that question?
We love you, Genine.
Okay. So, what kind of right? Yeah, I gotta get my thoughts on that question. I'm not quick on that. What kind of intervention would take place with the LGBT community, youth community? I will first be honest and say I've not necessarily worked specifically with youth. Wait a minute, let's put it like this: to my knowledge, or had a component to where that is what my focus would be, or to try to make sure that tobacco, and I work in prevention. Not necessarily cessation or anything, but just prevention. And I guess I would just shoot it straight the same way I would tell someone that is not a part of the youth LGBT community, look, tobacco kills. And you're the target. There was a quote Philip Morris said, a quote that said, when they asked if we, do you use your own product? We don't smoke that shit. We reserve that for the dumb, the stupid, the black, young, the poor. Okay, so then I'll say, okay, where do you fit into that? So I don't care if you, call yourself a lesbian, gay, bisexual, whatever. Are you dumb? If you smoke it, obviously so, because they said you are. Are you young? Are you black? Something. Do you fit in any of those categories? I think that I would just shoot it straight like I shoot to everybody. Tobacco's going to kill you. May not be today, may not be tomorrow. It may be long down, and it might not be you. It might be that person sitting next to you. It never touches tobacco, but it's going to die from the effects of secondhand smoke. So I think that I would just keep it the way I always keep it. That would answer that question, since I don't actually work with that community to my knowledge. Okay.
Tiffany. We asked this question this morning to the adult group. Now we want the perspective of the young adult. It is often said that outside of Christianity, it's difficult to openly discuss intervention in the church. How difficult is it to openly discuss HIV prevention among youth groups in a faith-based community?
That's so ironic that you asked me that question, because we were just having this conversation prior to lunch. Just to put it simply, extremely difficult. Because when you're growing up in a Christian family, and I'm blessed because my mother raised me in a Christian household, you're taught with certain morals and you're taught with certain rules. And when you're younger, okay, I go to church because my mom makes me go to church. I'm reading the Bible because my mom says I should. I believe in God because my mom tells me I should believe in God. And so you kind of grow up with these rules, I guess, of what to do and what not to do because I'm a Christian. Or at least that's what my mom is telling me I am, you know? And so when you get older, you start to learn things, but you learn that, you know, you shouldn't have sex before marriage. And that's what you're taught. Don't have sex before you get married. And because you're taught with that, it's really difficult to go to your church because, you know, the reality of the situation is that a lot of people, a lot of children, like you said, kids are having sex, you know, in elementary school, in middle school, high school, and college. And that is before they're married. And so it's difficult to approach a situation like that because the rule all along is, you know, don't have sex before you're married. And so it can be extremely intimidating and it's very hard. But I think that one thing that this gentleman said, and I'm glad you said that, is that people do need to be educated. And the fact that, you know, sex is happening and it's real and these are diseases. And so you want to make it so that your child can come to you and talk to you about anything and feel comfortable and be open. Because the fact of the matter is that people are out here and they are having sex. And we need to just kind of do away with that thought that, you know, don't have sex before marriage. Even though that's great, like you say, abstinence is great, but the reality of the situation is that's not what's taking place right now. It's really not reality. So we just need to kind of, you know, teach abstinence, that's great, but also teach the safety precautions as well. So, thank you.
Well, wait.
Oh.
How difficult is it to openly discuss tobacco prevention within the youth, within the faith-based community?
With tobacco prevention, I think it's kind of, it's the same thing. You just have to approach a situation just with an open mind. You know, I'm really not familiar with just tobacco. I don't smoke. And I guess, to be honest, it's more so, I guess in my generation, it's more so not tobacco, but like with other drugs, like with marijuana and things like that. And I guess you can kind of approach a situation, you know, with, not really with tobacco, but just kind of attack the marijuana issue, I think. Because I think that's what's more apparent now, I guess within my generation, who I grew up with, and, you know, things that I'm surrounded with, is more marijuana. And I think that it's still difficult because those are still things that you're taught not to do, that it's bad to do those things. So I still think it's just difficult in any case. Just parents and, you know, pastors especially just need to have an open mind and know that these issues are very, very, very relevant in today's society.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
And if your pastor or the deacons or the people at the church are smoking, it's kind of hard for them to turn around
better say it.
and talk to the youth about smoking. So when somebody like me comes up, it's, oh, can I talk to your youth about smoking? Hold on just a second. I tell you what, I'm going to get back to you. Can you give me a card? Just go to YESteam.org, find out I can talk to you too.
And you know, I'm so glad you brought up that point, because it brought up something else in my head. You know, people do have to live by example. And you know, kids especially are so influential, and everything that they see they want to mimic. I kid you not, I do volunteer work with my sorority organization, and we went to a local Boys and Girls Club in Arkadelphia. And we were on the playground, you know, just playing with the children, and, you know, the boys over here playing flag football, but all the girls were over here, and they were, like, dancing. And someone was singing a song, and, like, bent over, popping, dancing. like as if they were like a music video. And me and my sorority sisters, we were like, we need to go over here and stop this. So we went over and talked to young ladies. We were like, y'all need to, stop doing that. You got these little boys looking at you. You really shouldn't, carry yourself that way. And we were asking, where these kids, elementary kids, by the way, where are you learning how to do all these things? My mama, whoa, your mom is So, and her daughter may have not even known that she was watching her, but the fact is that she was, and she saw. And so now this is what she's doing. And so it's important to live by example. If you're teaching your kids, abstinence, and you're a single parent or something like that, you shouldn't be bringing people in and out the house like that for your child to see, because they're going to be mimicking what they do see.
Just to piggyback off of that, I love my dad to death, but he was on drugs for 20 years, but I never once seen him high. You know what I'm saying? I never once seen him strung out on anything. The only thing I heard was he was on drugs. When he came to me, or he came to my siblings, he was sober. So, and with my mama, I don't party with my kids. I'm sorry. Okay. You know what I'm saying? If it's a family function, that's fine. But I'm not finna, we're gonna ride in the same car to go to the club. You know what I'm saying? No, absolutely not. And that goes back to the whole church thing too. If you see, how people talk in church, you know what I'm saying? So-and-so got a baby by so-and-so. But I'm trying to talk to your kids about protecting themselves. They ain't gonna listen, because you know what I'm saying? You ain't doing it.
Exactly.
So, that's my cousins all the time. Shoot, my mama do it, so I do it. Monty, go on, baby, up there, go on, shake like this. She can make her booty clap. And she 15. Her booty gonna be clapping, she gonna have 3 kids. And can't take care of them, but then you gonna be the one who take care of them. But I think we need to take a different approach as well. Even with our LGBT youth. My aunt would rather see her child have a church of kids than for him to be gay and be educated. I have an aunt who has 2 kids. One son got 6 kids by 5 different women. But she has a daughter who's a lesbian, and she can't stand her. And she's a college graduate. She does not smoke. She does not drink. You know what I'm saying? But we rail against that, like Sybil said earlier, we rail against those things that we fear. We don't fear having kids because, hell, we've been having kids for the longest. I come from generations of 13 plus kids, 14 plus kids, you know what I'm saying? So we don't fear having kids, but we fear HIV because, remember, it's a white disease. Oh, but wait, somebody heterosexual got it, so now we got to address it just a little bit. But it doesn't happen in my family, so, we don't have to worry about it. So I think, you know what I'm saying, we need a different approach.
Back to what she was saying. Your generation, maybe not you're in college, you got your degree or whatever, but the majority of the generation in your era, in the state we living in now, it's okay for you to smoke blunts and weed in front of your kid. Oh, I don't care if my baby do it. So it's not being taught in the home. And then on the gays, I don't care if you're gay now. You my partner, we cool, I don't care if you use drugs now, it's okay if my baby hang out. We couldn't do that, we was taught against all that when we was coming up, but in this day and age, we don't care what our kids are doing, because we too busy doing what we want to do. So we gotta start. Charity starts at home and spreads abroad.
That's right. And also times have also changed drastically. What wasn't accepting, 20 years ago is totally accepting now. So,
and I guess the parents Swinton could attest to that. I don't know what those statistics say, but aren't the parents getting younger?
Yeah.
True. So maybe they just don't know.
Well, you know what? The parents are getting younger, and I think oftentimes, parents have, because they did have children so young, they missed their childhood. And one thing that I try to tell my parents, because Monty attended a parenting class that I did, how to talk to your kids about sex. I'm telling them, as our kids get just a little older, they hit the 13 and 14 age range, you're like, oh, I'm straight. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow. And you leaving your 13 and 14-year-old home.
That's right.
And, I just have to mention this, like our cell phones, like when I tell the students all the time that, when I was in high school, cell phones weren't invented.
Okay.
They were not. I think I got my first cell phone when I was like in my mid-20s. They're like, huh? Because they're getting cell phones at like
10.
10. You know, my 9-year-old is like, can I get a cell phone? And I'm like, no. Because where are you that I am not? You know,
Exactly.
You ain't that important right
you know, but you know, now kids have cell phones to keep up with their parents. And I try to tell parents that, you know, quit being so predictable. Why do you have to call your house when you're getting ready to come home? Just show up. That's your house.
Right.
Well, my mama showed up.
You know, but when we calling, well, I'm on my way home now. Your daughter or son could have somebody over there. So what they doing is, you got to go because my mama on her way. You know, we have to be smarter than our kids. We are. But you know what? We got to start thinking like them. I really feel sorry for my kids when they started getting old, because when they get 14 and I'm getting ready to go to Walmart, get up, let's go. And they be like, what? But you know, we have to get, and when you were saying, you know, how parents nowadays, they smoking weed with their kids, I mean, I experienced that firsthand when I have students who come to my class, high as a kite, and I'm like, where does one get high before school? On the bus stop? Exactly. They're like, I'm at home. I go, oh, does your mom know you smoke? Shoot, she smoked. I go, okay, well, thanks for sharing. You know?
And they will share.
Oh, yeah.
They will share.
They
They are, they
share. You know, I can see my students with their parents and just think about some of the things that they have told me. I'd be like, oh, man. So.
I just want to think about what the gentleman said. We need something for now. But then, where our children now, the things that they are encountering, we didn't encounter.
Yeah.
We need a new approach. As the brother said, we need a new approach to deal with the now.
That's right.
Being real with our children is the most positive thing we can be.
Yeah.
It's not time to be taboo and shh about this, because it's killing.
That's right.
And we're not giving them the knowledge.
That's right.
They look to us. We got to be able to educate ourselves so that we can give it to our children. It's a different time, so it calls for a different approach.
Yep.
And I'm glad that brother said that, because we need a new approach in the church. We need a new approach in the homes. We definitely need a new approach in the education system. We need a new approach in the whole statewide.
It needs to be a campaign approach.
And the time is now,
Yeah, new
not
approach.
then, because people are dying now.
That's right.
That's right.
A question right here.
Yes, I don't have a question, but I'm glad to hear that we're talking about new approaches. I think the conversation is good and we know what the challenges are. I would hope that today we come up with at least one way we can have an outcome from the conversation, be it through the school or faith-based or whatever. We know what the problem is, but if we can come together, we can make a major impact and say we didn't just have a conference to talk about something. Now we have an outcome where we're going to do something once we leave here.
Amen.
Amen.
I want to ask you, Deborah, how do people treat you when you tell them you're HIV positive today as opposed to when you first was infected? Is it any different or is it the same?
Well, when I was first affected with the virus, I didn't really feel the impact that others felt, because I had a loving family that gave me love. So I felt that love, and I felt open enough that I could share anything with them. So that made me a much stronger person. So when I reached out in the community to talk about what was going on with me, from your response, whether it was negative or positive, it didn't take me off my course, because by that time I was strong on the inside to where your reaction wouldn't affect me. But to others, I have seen others go through a whole lot about the effect of others responding to them because they was HIV positive. They felt ostracized, they felt alone, they felt cold, and they felt that no one else loved them. But because before I was positive, I grew up in a loving family anyway. You know, so, and I have an outgoing personality naturally. So that doesn't affect me like it does others.
I have a question for Debbie, if I can ask. I often heard that the medication was very expensive. Is that your case? Is it expensive and the insurance pay for it?
Mine is very expensive. Mine's over $1,900 a month for just one pill for 30 days. But however, I'm on Medicaid, so it pays for it, but everybody's still not in the realm that I am
Exactly.
in. Because today's time, your TCR count has to be below 200. And you don't move from HIV to full-blown AIDS before you even get to get on Medicaid. I mean, you have to be halfway dead. So back in the time when I got on Medicaid, I had a hepatitis C too, so they gave me another door to get in before I transitioned to full-blown AIDS and be halfway dead and could not live after I finally get some medical care.
This question for Tiffany. Tiffany, with me having two children in college right now, how do you guys handle sexual health talked about on college campus?
Well, I was fortunate, and I don't know where your child goes, but I was fortunate enough to go to a very open liberal four-year university, Henderson State, and I actually brought an HIV/AIDS awareness, I guess, event week to my school, and I had no problems with the administrative staff, the president of my university, and were very open, very accepting to the idea because they recognize the need and the importance for the education of our students. So I was very fortunate to go to a university where they were very opening and understanding. And it was something new, and like Kevin was saying, we need to do, it's time out for just having a speaker come and just say, okay, this is what AIDS is, this is what you need to do to protect yourself, here's a pamphlet, here's a condom, good luck. You need to have a new approach to the situation. So I would just suggest, just try to think of ideas, new ways to just attack the issue and to get people involved and to get people interested. Whether it's having, we had a local radio celebrity come and show up at our event, and he just kind of brought people. So little things like that, just to get the word out there. So, if that answered your question, did it? Okay.
I have one question that I was passed, so I must get to it. And this is for Karen. What strategies do you use to educate the lesbian youth population related to HIV transmission?
Well, this is the thing. It's not funny, but I mean, oftentimes, I have young ladies who come up to me and will say, who are lesbian, oh, we can't get HIV, right? And I'm like, yes, you can, because if you're having any type of, oral sex, you can still become infected. And if you're, sharing needles, I give them the whole spiel, but, again, I try not to discriminate and say, if you're gay, this is what you do, or if you're lesbian, I preach I preach the, prevention strategies. I don't preach the who, I preach the what. If you're having this type of sex, you can contract the virus. If you're, doing this, you can get HIV. So I think it's really important because I had a young lady who came up to me this summer and said, are we gonna be talking about gay sex? I said, what is that? Because anything a girl can do with another girl, believe me, a boy's doing it with a girl. Anything a guy is doing with another guy, a guy's doing it with a girl. So, and I'm talking about the anal. Guys have anal sex with girls. Guys have anal sex with guys. So it's not so much who you're doing it with, it's the what. And so, I basically talk to whomever will listen about prevention.
Amen. Okay. And I'm just going to allow for 5-second closing remarks if any of the panelists have any closing remarks. 5 seconds apiece. Ms. Conley, may I entertain one more question? One more question.
This question is for Ms. Patton. You mentioned that the way you taught, the methods that you use in teaching your kids about prevention, about use of protection, and you said that you taught them that way because apparently you was already a positive, so you had that experience, you had a little bit more knowledge. My question to you, do you feel like you would have had that same approach had you not been positive?
No, I don't feel like that I would have been as open with them about the situation, because my openness came from the way that I felt like my life had been, and I didn't want my girls to go in that route. So I shared with them what went on with me and what took me there and what got me there and what transpired while I was there. That you have the education now. So you have to take this and apply this to your life. And if you don't, then this is what's going to happen to you.
What advice would you give to a parent who is not positive and may not be as comfortable, but still knowing that they need to address that issue? What advice would you give them on how to approach or how to teach protection and prevention in their household?
You're going to have to come to a place where you are comfortable because you have once been a child too. And you know how you felt when you was a child, when you had questions to your parents that were unanswered. And when no one talked to you about what was going on in your life, or if you'd have had someone to talk to you and to guide you when you was a child, some of the things that you've done that you wouldn't have done. So sometimes we have to reflect back on us being a child and how we felt, you know, and what hurt us the most. And that we don't want our child to feel that same hurt that we felt as being a child growing up. They didn't want to talk about the birds and the bees, you know, or either they want to say, oh, she just ate this watermelon seed. You know, how dumb can that get? Wow, that tripped me out when I realized that they just made a fool out of me. My own family will not tell me the truth and made a fool out of me. She had a watermelon seed and swallowed her up. Behave. I mean, you know, and tell me the truth about what you been. I mean, you know, my life might have taken a different route if I had known about these things that was outside the door. You know, we have to teach our kids what's outside the door, and it's the big bad wolf. Okay.
Well, that is all the time that we have, but I wanted to know if any of the panelists have any other closing remarks.
I just have one. You know, my mother-in-law, she said, you know, what is going to come out of this? For you all who are part of different churches, organizations, you know, I know today, not only just this panel, but you listen to people who are experts in their field on HIV and epidemiology and smoking cessation. You know, I would just like to charge those who are listening to go back to your communities and, you know, talk to the churches about bringing people in to address these issues that are, you know, affecting our community. And, you know, I'm sure you have our information that are in these booklets. And, you know, call us up and ask us to come and do a presentation or come out and speak, because that's the only way, you know, we're going to have a positive effect on our community is for us to address these issues, because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. And we today acknowledge the fact that we do have a problem or an issue, and just draw on the people that are experts in the field and have us to come out and speak so we can all become a part of the dialogue to change this community.
I just want to say, okay, I just keep going back to a different approach. We have to get that in our minds, a different approach. When it was so-called a white disease, they got out there on the steps and they marched for it and they were radical about it, and their numbers started to decrease. Why? Because people started listening. You know, they were very proactive. We're still hush hush, you know, don't talk about that. I mean, we don't even acknowledge, like she said, we don't even acknowledge that we're having sex. Even in the churches. Oh, now we got to talk about people having sex. Well, these babies are coming up. Somebody's having sex. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's doing something. I mean, they not kissing and getting pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, different approaches. We just have to have a different approach.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to sum it up for you. So the new approach, keep it 100%, talk real, and talk about what's on the other side of the door.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
That's good. Thank you to our panelists. Oh, wait. I'm not dismissed yet.
You're still gathering my
Okay, let's give our panelists and our facilitator one great big hand. And keeping in the spirit of future builders, we like to give people their flowers while they're before us. We'd like to present our facilitator with a token of our appreciation, a certificate, and we have the same for each one of our panelists.
Okay. And while he is presenting the certificates, I'd like to remind you to fill out your evaluation form. Please leave it on the table once you have completed your evaluation form. It's not over. We still have another presenter or closing remarks from from those involved with this great symposium.
Kevin, it was so nice meeting you, and I got your card, and I'll be in touch.
We can get together and do some stuff.
All right, would Linda Connolly, Ms. Cheryl Martin, and Ms. Donna McSpadden will come up, please, and give us some closing remarks?
All right. We need 3 takeaways for today. So somebody tell me something that you're going to take away from what you heard today. Yes, ma'am.
The main thing that I take away from today was when Sybil was talking about how, you know how a lot of times the guys will say, they got HIV from someone and I'm going to try to take as many people with me as I can. The fact that they can give it to someone else and that mutated strand can come back on them, which means actually they're killing themselves faster.
Interesting. Okay, one more. Who has another takeaway? Something you heard differently for today? You heard the same thing, but you heard it differently? Something you're going to take back with you?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell these seniors to slow down.
Who knew, right? Who knew? There you go. Anybody else? Another takeaway from today? Well, I can tell you while you were in here getting good information, we had 77 students, faculty, and staff being tested, sweating for their 20 minutes, and every result was a good result. So, I'm happy to 77 people today know their status that didn't know before. So I thank you all for having your symposium here, for bringing awareness to our campus, and hopefully some lives were saved. Thank you.
I'd like to reiterate one more time that you guys look in the back of your program booklet and look at all the help that we had trying to pull this event together. I'd also like to thank again those individuals that made it possible, which is the Minority Initiative Sub-Recipient Grant Office out of UAPB and also the Arkansas Department of Health. Those were our 2 funding sources that made all of this possible. So look at the back of your booklet again, and you'll see all of the good people that helped to give you all this information today. I'd also like to recognize very quickly, we had some of our board members here. We still have a board member present. We had a board member had to leave. Mr. Charles Sampson, would you raise your hand? This is my boss. So he's the one that keeps Future Builders together. I'd also like to thank my husband who's sitting next to Mr. Sampson. Would you raise your hand? Because Mr. Sampson keeps Future Builders together, but he keeps me together. So he said, which is hard to do. But I'd like to just thank all of you again for coming. And I'd like to thank Ms. Cheryl Martin, who was our co-facilitator for the program. And a special thank you to Ms. Donna McSpadden, who just spoke a minute ago, for helping to organize the health fair and pulling all of the vendors together and all of the information next door that people received while we were in here. And some of you may have visited that health fair. But I'd like to thank Ms. McSpadden. I think she may have, oh, there she is, for just organizing that for us. She just, took the lead and took care of that. So just a lot of thank yous, thank you, thank you. Now I want to share this, that after our last closing remark from Ms. Martin, if you want to hang on, we'll have some more drawings just for a few minutes, because we still have some more giveaways, and we wanted to do giveaways after the morning session and then giveaways after the afternoon session. So if you stay and a lot of people leave, we just might pull your ticket. So, because I'm going to keep pulling until I give something away. So if you want to stay for a few minutes, please do so. But thank you all for making this day possible. We just appreciate you so very much. And get ready for the 8th annual HIV/AIDS prevention symposium that's going to be December 1st of 2012. So we're going to have another one. This is the 7th. Get ready for the 8th. It's going to be better than this one.
I want to say good afternoon, everyone. I didn't know I was supposed to do a closing remark this afternoon. My name is Marian, and I'm the president of the Little Rock Black Nurses. And I have a couple of Little Rock Black nurses here with me today. I would like for them to stand. LaShawn Hill and Yvonne Sims, and we have a new recruit that's, she don't have to stand right now, but she will be coming along with us. But this is one of the things that we're doing as far as our national chapter. HIV and AIDS awareness is one of the things that we work with, and you guys will be hearing more things that we're doing. And I just want to say I'm glad that we're all here together trying to talk about some things that we can do as a health community. And I was glad to see Dr. Smith here this morning to talk about some of the things that we need. And also, I just wanted to tell you guys one of the things that kind of brought this on. Pat is not here now. Pat Miner was the one that told me about Linda Connolly and Futures Builders. And I was, last year was my first year to help. And I called her and asked her, what can I do this year? And she made me co-chair. So next time I won't ask. But anyway, and one of the things last thing I want to say is I'm a wound nurse at St. Vincent's. And one of the things that kind of caught my attention is I was seeing a lot of patients that had wounds. They had rectal lesions, they had lesions on their private areas, on their penis, on their vaginal areas, and these were wounds that I started seeing a lot. And one of the things I started seeing a lot of young black kids come in. It was just really started putting a burden on my heart. And I have a son that's in college in Memphis, and I have a daughter at ASU. She just started. And it was kind of funny because every time I would see that, I would send him a text and say, are you still, make sure you're not doing unprotected sex. And I kept sending those. He like, Mom, would you please stop sending those? Every time I saw a patient, I would send it to him. And so that's one of the things we can say about making sure that our kids are grounded, because when we see things, that just makes the best experience for them. So we just have to be careful, just make sure we educate our own family. Like he said, it starts first at home. Okay, thank you.
We're going to consider our symposium as adjourned, but we are going to have some more drawings. So if you can't stay, I understand, but if you want to stay for a few more drawings, I'm ready. Do you still have your tickets? All right, let's do this.